You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to N2K Cyberwire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Dave Bittner, and joining me is Joe Kerrigan. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
And our N2K colleague and host of the T-Minus Space Daily podcast, Maria Vermazis. Maria.
Hello, Dave, and hello, Joe. And to your chickens.
We've got some great stories to share this week, and why don't we jump right into the fun here. We do have a little bit of follow-up, maybe self-serving.
Yes. We can't not talk about the chickens, Dave.
Okay.
Last week, I was listening to the episode because I'm like that. I listen to every single episode just in case I say something profoundly stupid.
Yeah.
I can come in here in the next episode and correct it.
Okay.
That's really
Right.
the case. But I tell people it's because I love hearing the sound of my own voice. But we were talking last week while you were at your son's graduation.
Yes.
Not very dedicated to the podcast, I see. Dave.
Sorry. I did an analysis of my priorities, and I think I made the right choice.
Okay.
Agreed.
But Maria said one of the things I should do is come up with some names of chickens that were related to malware. And I was like, okay, but I couldn't come up with them off the top of my head. So I took
It's
a
tough,
little bit
yeah.
of time, came up with some chicken names based on malware.
Okay.
Number one, Cluxnet.
That's a good one.
Good.
Conchicker. Like conflicker.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's an oldie but goodie.
Right. Because they are Wyandottes, I could call one of them Wyancry. Like wanna
Wanna
cry.
cry? Yeah, yep.
You remember the very first self-replicating worm, the Morris worm?
The Morris worm, 1989. Yeah.
Right. Morris worm eater.
Love that.
Okay.
Because now I'm getting into and then like blaster worm, I was thinking Boxster, but now I feel like at this point I'm just like kind of shoehorning these into the name. So that's all I've come up with.
Can
Those
I-
are really
can
good,
I
though.
offer-
I like Cluxnet a lot.
Cluxnet.
Do you
and
know
Morse
what?
worm eater.
Do you know what chicken-based malware uses?
What does it use?
Encryption.
Encryption.
Oh, good night,
That would be a
everybody. All right.
It's a
good-
little bit of foul play.
Oh, my God.
By the way, the chickens have been moved now to the garage. They are
Okay.
too big to be in the basement anymore. They are now out in the garage, and they are getting very large very quickly
Yeah.
and eating a lot of food.
Yeah.
I
chickens
relate
better
to
be
that
worth it.
strongly.
Is there like specific chicken chow that you feed them?
Yes, it's just chicken feed.
Yeah.
It's got like oyster shells ground up into it to make their eggs harder.
Oh.
And then
Oh, they eat oysters. Fancy.
Well, they eat the shells of oysters,
Yeah, but you got to get the oysters.
right? And then they also eat. There's also some mealworms, and they love the mealworms.
Oh.
Mealworms are their favorite.
You know, as you know, Joe, you've been to my house. I live near a lake.
Yes, you do.
And I was out there one day walking around the lake, and there was a guy who had a little net, like a little, 4x4 foot net. And he was tossing this net out near the shore and just bringing it in. And I went over to him. I said, hey, what are you up to? I'm curious. And he said, oh, I'm catching crayfish.
Crayfish.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Crayfish,
Huh.
crayfish,
Yep.
right? Little mini lobsters,
Yep.
right?
Mud bugs, they call them in Louisiana.
Yeah. And I said, oh, that's interesting. What are you catching crayfish for? And he said, to feed my ducks. So evidently, crayfish to a duck is, well, I mean, I guess like a lobster, right? I'm picturing ducks with little lobster bibs.
Little crayfish bibs on.
Little
Yeah.
drawn butter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they eat the
But,
green stuff? Yeah, of course they do.
I wonder if the chickens would enjoy crayfish as well.
I don't know, but there are lots of spotted lanternflies out near where my daughter lives.
Oh.
Oh,
they're,
do they
they're
eat
all
those?
over the place. I hope so.
Yeah.
Because they're
Kill
all
those
over the
things.
place out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
And they're invasive. And I live like 5 or 6 miles from my daughter's house and haven't seen a single one of them yet. And right now they're in the cute little nymph phase, if you can call bugs cute and little. But some bugs I do, like click beetles, my favorite bug of all. And Maria's laughing because I have a favorite bug.
No, I'm just like, of course, it was of course you do.
My favorite bug is the praying mantis.
I like praying mantises too. They're
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Like they're cool because they're
Big.
They're big. They live around here.
Yep.
And also, I like the fact that they can move their head.
Yeah.
You know, most
Crazily
bugs can't move their head, and a praying mantis will track you as you
Right.
walk by.
And and they watch you. And it's,
yeah.
it always unnerves me, but I love them.
Yep.
And they're good to have around.
Yeah, they're
That's
very
true.
cool bugs.
That is true.
They are.
And now, a few thoughts from our sponsors at ThreatLocker. The tactics used by cyber criminals are becoming more and more advanced every day. The shift from a default allow approach to a default deny is more critical than ever. This is where ThreatLocker comes in. Stay tuned for how ThreatLocker allow listing and ring fencing has your back. So,
Let's get on to our stories.
welcome to Animal Husbandry Corner. Let me start things off. Oh, my goodness. So this is a story. It's actually from the Space Coast Daily, which, Maria, sounds like your
It's
area
not
of
my story.
expertise.
Yes, it's your story. Okay.
from T minus. And I guess the Space Coast is what? Where's the Space Coast, Maria? It says
Around the
Brevard
Florida
County,
area. Yeah,
Florida.
where
Yeah.
they launch from, basically. I'm gonna get
see.
angry emails about this, but I'm being very close.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I'm thinking of is Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Right. Speaking of praying mantises.
Right.
I have that mug. When I started T minus, Brandon thought of Space Ghost for me, so now I have a Space Ghost mug.
Nice.
There you
Very
go.
nice. So, the Space Coast Daily, which is a local newspaper around that neck of the woods, they posted an article about a scam that's been making the rounds. It's actually national, and the FBI put out some warnings about this. And it was a sort of a joint announcement from the FBI and a local healthcare organization down in Florida called Health First Health Plans. And they were warning folks about this nationwide medical insurance scam. And how it works is the scammers target individuals who are looking for cheap health insurance, and it urges them to pay for a full year upfront. And so the victims get contacted via calls or texts or emails, and also, wait for it, social media ads.
Yay!
And they're offered low-cost plans, but the plans don't actually have any coverage at all.
This is the ideal insurance business model.
Go on.
So,
Give me a second.
I mean,
okay.
it's the ideal business model for anything if you think about it,
the
but go
ideal
ahead.
business model, I'm sorry, the ideal insurance business model is you tell people, hey, we're going to pay for everything that happens when it's bad and when things go wrong, and then they actually don't pay anything. Oh, no, you weren't covered for this because of XYZ. You know, you
Yeah.
didn't. So, I mean, I'm always afraid that every form of insurance is like this.
Well, yes.
Yes.
And
Same.
I you know, look, our international listeners, I'm sure, scratch their heads at the irrationality of the U.S. healthcare system and how we still seem to go on day by day and be okay with it compared to the kind of coverage that other people get. And what I wonder is, like, and I say this myself, people say, I have good health insurance. Do you?
Have
do you
you
know?
have you tested it?
Right. Like, I mean, I think I do, but how do you know?
Yeah.
You know only when you try to use it and whether it gets approved or denied.
Right.
So I think I have good health insurance.
Mhm.
Sure as hell does cost a lot,
Right.
but I don't know, and there's really no way to know. Like, I suppose I could, read through the mountain of paperwork and also get a master's degree in this sort of thing. But anyway, so what happens with the scam is people think that they have coverage, and then they go and they get services, and they try to use this insurance, and it's just no good. This article talks about a man here in Maryland who was left with a $7,000 hospital bill after he had emergency surgery, and it wasn't covered. So
Which, if you were telling me this about it without knowing that this was a scam, I would say this sounds like day-to-day insurance problems that everybody
Right.
here
Yeah.
has.
Like
Goodness.
$7,000 for surgery, pretty good deal.
I was going to say, that's not bad.
again, the irrationality of the U.S. healthcare system.
is the-
That we think a $7,000 hospital bill is a good deal. Our
Gallows humor.
European listeners are like, "What are you talking about?"
Right.
Like, we pay $20, and the people who hand us the bill are apologetic that it's so high. So yeah. I'm curious if either of you have been in the situation of trying to help a friend or a loved one get affordable health care, someone who doesn't have it provided through their employer. If you've been through that lately of trying to get, someone you know or love healthcare insurance. I ask because I just went through that. My son just turned 26, which means he fell off of our health insurance.
Right.
He is a freelancer,
Mm-hmm.
so we had to go find him. Basically go through the Affordable Care Act. The state of Maryland.
The marketplace.
Yeah, the marketplace that Maryland provides, and try to find him. And boy, let me tell you, is that fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious if either of you have been through that at all, or if I'm the lucky one.
I have not been through it. I haven't had to deal with this. I know my dad had to deal with that. Something similar with my grandmother when she was living up with us, because she needed some Medicare gap insurance.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But my father, like I said, I've said many times, he actually still is an accountant, a CPA. I found out recently he's still a CPA. I thought he'd given up the credential, but nope, he keeps up with it.
For him. That's good.
Yeah. And he's always handled it. So I don't have to do that for younger people. My kids are both employed and have health insurance through their employers, and they have kids of their own. Both of them do, so they're doing that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Maria?
I've been through this personally a couple of times, either with myself
Right.
or helping other people. Now, I live in Massachusetts. We have something sort of like, it's not technically universal health care in the proper definition of it, but we have something that's pretty close. It's called Mass Health, but that's sort of newish to me. When I was unemployed in my 20s, I had gotten laid off from my job at the time. Mass Health did not exist, so I had to get COBRA insurance. And part of my severance agreement with my previous employer, they generously offered to pay half of my COBRA for at least a few months. And COBRA is extraordinarily expensive. And I remember my bill went from $1,200 a month to a mere $600 for me, who was struggling to pay rent at the time. So that was really painful. I'm very glad I didn't have, I already had a chronic condition that I was managing at the time. So I was sweating bullets. It's honestly thanks to a lot of my friends that helped me quite literally find places to get cheap groceries that I managed to get through all that. But it was a tough time. This is a long time ago, but I still remember it very, very strongly. Thankfully, not long after that happened, Mass Health came into being. And so it's not perfect. There are certainly gaps there, but a lot of my friends who've had to use it, it helps them out. So I'm grateful for it.
Well, getting back to this scam here, the warnings are look out for someone really trying to get you to pay for a year up front. And what they do is they offer you a irresistible deal if you pay everything up front. You're going to save a lot of money if you pay up front rather than paying month to month. And really what they're after is to get that big bulk payment, and then, you'll never see them again.
Right.
In some cases, they're out of here, because it was a scam from the beginning. And of course, just verify the insurer's legitimacy with your state insurance department. Check with healthcare providers to make sure that they accept the plan. Just that sort of general stuff. But, kind of to your point, Maria, if you're in a situation where you really need insurance and you've got that emotional component of being under a time constraint or a financial constraint, you can see how people could go in on this kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think in my case, if I had received this scam at that time when I was in between jobs and also trying to manage some health stuff and figure out how to pay rent and figure out how to get groceries. Very lucky that I didn't have like a kid or anything at that time. If someone said you can pay for all of this upfront, not that I had the money to do that, but if I did, that would have been a very tempting way to take that concern off of my mind. So I can absolutely see that.
Yeah. They also point out that if you find yourself a victim of this, report it to the FBI's Internet Crimes Complaint Center or call 1-800-MEDICARE for Medicare-related fraud. So we'll have a link to that story in the show notes here. Maria, you're up next. What do you have for us this week?
I have a little survey that Google just put out on their blog post, their privacy and security blog, via their vice president, Evan Kotsavinos. And it's a survey that Google put out, presumably of their own user set, about privacy and security within the United States, divided by generational groups. So we can get into the fun, boomers do this versus zoomers do that if we want. And I was sort of expecting that, but honestly, across the board, a lot of things are pretty consistent across age groups. So I actually found that more interesting. So some of the across the board findings from this survey was that of all the users surveyed, 60% said they saw an increase in online scams in the last year. And this was done in March 2025. So between March 2024 and March 2025, yeah, I think that tracks with what we've been talking about also. And in terms of all the users surveyed, confidence is mid, I guess as the kids would say, about how confident people are that they could actually identify scams. They didn't say whether or not AI and deepfakes play into this, but I have a feeling it really would. So 52% of the surveillants said they are somewhat confident they could ID scams. 32% are very confident. That is an interesting number. And 15% are not very or not at all. That 32%, I would really love to test those folks.
I would like to say they are overconfident.
I'm feeling the same way about that.
Let me pause for a second. How do the three of us feel? How would we rate ourselves?
I would say somewhat. Even doing what I do, I would always say somewhat. I want to be humble.
Yeah. I would be somewhat confident, only because we do this podcast and we talk about this kind of stuff every single week.
Yeah.
My question would be, how many false negatives would I be getting? That would be a good measure. Could I identify something as a scam or legitimate? And if I identify it as legitimate or as a scam when it is legitimate, do I get penalized in the scoring?
Yeah.
Probably. And I would probably identify a lot of things that are legitimate as scams.
It's interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I'm the person in my family, I'm sure you both have a similar role. People text me or email me things. Is this a scam? I get phone calls from my family all the time. I got this email or phone or whatever. Can you tell me this is a scam? And there are times where I'm going, I'm not entirely sure. Let me look into this for you. I can't tell you off the bat. Like, it's a good thing you didn't respond to it right away. But there have been a few times where I was thinking, I think it is a scam, and ends up actually it wasn't. It was legit. So yeah, maybe my radar can be off on that one too.
That's interesting. I would have said I would be very confident. And I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, what is it like? I forget what it was. Like 80% of men think they could beat Serena Williams in a tennis match or something. Something ridiculous. It's completely unearned and is more a reflection of the baseline overconfidence of your average middle-aged white man.
I have.
It might be that.
No such overconfidence.
I was going to say, in our sample size of 2, we've been 50-50 here. So
Serena Williams would kick my ass in a game of tennis.
Yeah, same.
I'm sure she can run from one end of the court to the other without getting winded. And that's where she'd get me in the endurance part of it.
I'd like to see you try to jump over the net to congratulate her.
Not going to happen.
No, hospital trip in the attempt.
I'm eating clay on that one.
All right. Go on, Maria.
Yeah, no problem. In terms of the actual vector for attack, the way people are seeing scams come in their lives, I don't think this is a huge surprise to any of us that email and text messages are actually neck and neck for the top ways that people are receiving scams. So 60% of respondents saw each, both email and text message threats, or scams rather. But the ones that surprised me were that scams via websites were under 20% of respondents saw scammy websites. That number just feels like it has plummeted. And that's just based on nothing but vibes for me. I feel like not that long ago, that number would have been a lot higher. 20%.
I guess it's just because so much is being done on mobile devices. Like, we've got the whole generation. I consider the generation below my own, and I'm solidly in Gen X, are just so mobile device centric.
Mhm.
Is that what we think could be the cause? Like they just aren't using computers, desktop computers to the
Yeah.
degree that we are.
Yeah, they're using. I mean, things are more app based. I would presume, and then also
Yeah.
the web has become so centralized. We don't have as many bespoke websites where I feel like they'd be easier to breach or make inject malicious code like it used to be.
True.
Yeah, that's just to me. That number just feels so much lower than I would have thought. But I think that's probably just gut feeling on that one. And then another lower than I expected number was social media threats. Only came in at 27%. So again, that's 27% of respondents to the survey said they saw scams on social media. That number feels way too low given how many social media scams we talk about on this show, Facebook
Right.
alone. So
And is that reflective of their ability to identify them?
that is a great question. I think that is the question, truly. Yes. So
Let me just roll in with some of my confidence and tell them what's what.
they're dumb, I'm smart. No,
Yeah. Step aside.
That's a great question, though, honestly.
Yeah.
And for happier news, I suppose, 60 to 75% of the users surveyed said they use strong, unique passwords. And I just wanted to throw a little parade. We've been beating that drum for so long that we're at almost 3/4 of people say they actually do that. That is amazing. And I have to give credit to the boomers. They come in at the highest percentage. 75% say they use strong, unique passwords, which is, I don't think what people might expect, but they are winning at this. So that is well done, boomers. And then consistent with what I think a lot of us have known, two-factor authentication, 2FA, about 50-50 use it. So I feel like that needle hasn't moved in a very long time. People either use it or they don't, and we can't really get a lot of people to adopt it past that halfway point. So the Google's point about these two data points about the strong unique passwords and 2FA means is that people are still relying on what they consider to be these out-of-date authentication methods, and they want to deprecate them as soon as possible for things like passkeys and social sign-ins. But I'm going, at least strong unique passwords are at 60 to 75%, so that feels like a win. And so Google is saying that their social sign-ins, like sign in with Google, as one example, is the percentages are much higher with youth, with the Zoomers, and it drops as you get older. And my thought on that was social media platform fatigue, because the older you get, the more social media platforms you've seen come and go. I still remember Friendster, for God's sake. Not that there was social sign-in with Friendster, but maybe you just kind of go, I've had enough of tying everything to this one service, and then it goes away, and now nothing works. So I wonder how that might change as people get older.
For me, it's trust. Like, I don't trust those platforms to be my sign-in controller.
There's also that.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want Google having all of the keys to the kingdom? Do you want Facebook having all the keys to the kingdom?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, no.
I don't want Google, and it is a million times less that I want Facebook.
Right.
Exactly.
I use Google sign-in for things that are easy and don't matter to me.
Yeah.
Like my Zillow sign-in is a Google sign-in.
Yeah.
I don't care about, if Google goes ahead and uses my information to sign in and look at my Zillow history, I don't care. They're not going to see anything I want, but they're not going to be my authentication method for my bank.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Anything, for anything else.
No,
Anything that
absolutely. Yeah. And then similar pattern with things that are higher with youth and drop as you get older. Don't read into that too much. Passkeys are highest use with Gen Z. So 40% of Gen Z say they use passkeys as their primary way to log into things. Millennials and Gen X are around 35%, and then boomers are 26%. 40% of Gen Z using passkeys is higher than I would have expected, only because I didn't realize that people were adopting passkeys that much. But Google's also been, and other services, I should say, they've been pushing it pretty aggressively for the past year at least, for people to switch to passkeys. So I maybe I shouldn't be surprised. So Google's giving the crown to the Zoomer, saying they're leading the way with the most secure sign-in methods, and by leading with passkeys.
God bless them.
God bless them. So I guess the rest of us have some catching up to do, because I'm pretty sure none of us are Zoomers. Pretty sure.
Nope.
No.
Nope. 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 Nope.
So,
Nope. Dave and I,
There's very little zooming going on in my life right
Yeah.
now.
Dave and I are Generation X. Marie, were you born after 1981?
I was. I'm a millennial, but I'm an elder millennial. So
Yes.
most of my friends are also Gen X, because that seems to be the generation I get along with the best. But yeah, I'm technically millennial. So
Yeah, this
You're
is
an old soul millennial.
it's just when I was born. I remember the analog years very, very well, and I was in high school when the internet was still very bespoke. So
yes.
those are good years.
So good.
So good.
Um,
Yeah, so good.
According to Purdue Global, this is from PurdueGlobal.edu. Generation X. Their keywords are flexible, informal, skeptical, and independent. I'll agree with the skeptical part
Skeptical,
informal part.
definitely.
and the flexible part. And I'll agree with all those. I think those are me.
Pretty darn great.
As I say, we were raised on hose water and neglect.
Right. And that's because boomers were, one of the words is workaholics.
Right. There you go. All right. Well, I tell you what, let's take a quick break here to hear from our sponsor. We will be right back. So let's return to our sponsor, ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform that strengthens your infrastructure from the ground up. Where traditional cybersecurity tools require you to create a list of things you don't want to run, ThreatLocker enables you to easily curate an allow list of everything you need in your environment and network, and block everything else by default. With ThreatLocker allow listing and ring fencing, you gain a more secure approach to blocking exploits of known and unknown vulnerabilities. ThreatLocker provides zero-trust control at the kernel level that enables you to allow everything you need and block everything else, including ransomware. The ThreatLocker Zero Trust Endpoint Protection Platform deploys in a learning mode that analyzes the operations of your company using machine learning to assist you in developing your allow list for approved applications, what they can do on the endpoint, what can interact with your data, and even east and west network traffic. We thank ThreatLocker for sponsoring our show. And we are back. Joe, you are up. What do you got for us this week?
First, I want to talk about how, since we all got together last time, I want to tell you I got.
Oh.
What?
Mildly, but I got.
Okay.
Oh.
So
Joe.
Sunday morning, we went out to brunch and had a good time at brunch. And the waiter comes up at the end after I'm paying the bill, and he goes, "Hey, here's our survey app. Scan this barcode and give us a rating on the survey app. And my name is right here, and let us know how it works." So sure. I mean, this guy was great, so I'm going to go and give him a good review on their survey app.
Mm-hmm.
So I scan the barcode, tap the link, and I go. And as I'm entering the information and giving it 5 stars, I realize I'm writing a Google review. It is not a survey app at all. It's a Google review that I'm writing. So now out there, and I still went through with it and said, it's a great place. Go get to have brunch. Matt's great, wonderful service. And I noticed the comment right below me was same thing. Matt's great. Apparently, Matt's a very good waiter. But I felt a little bit of betrayal there from the company.
Yeah.
I know they're not. It's not Matt's fault. They're not making him do, or they're making him do this. It's not his doing. But I was like, that's a little bit of an underhanded trick, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
I had a similar thing happen when we were on vacation earlier this year. We took a trip to Florida, to the big theme parks down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were checking into the resort where we were. And I don't remember the details, but for some reason, we had to give our baggage to the...
Homeless guy out front?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
No, the guys at the front who help you with your
bellhops,
bags.
yeah.
The bellhops. Thank you. That's the word
Right.
I was looking for. And so I, hand over the bags, and the bag guy does exactly the same thing. Hey, can you rate us and this and that and the other? And I'm like, oh God. So I would create an account and this and that and the
Give me
other
back my
thing.
bags.
Right. But I'm thinking but I'm feeling trapped because
Right.
he's got my bags.
Right.
So am I going to say no? No, because my bags are going to end up in the swamp,
Right.
with being eaten by an alligator. But so it was just left a little bit of a bad taste.
Yeah, but Dave, your fedora will look so good in an alligator.
That's true. my
Everybody-
traveling hat.
You're traveling it.
All right, Joe. What else you got?
So this story comes from businesstoday.in, which I guess that's
India.
India. That's India.
India,
Right.
yeah.
There was a company called Builder.ai. Perhaps you've talked about this in the Cyberwire, Dave.
That doesn't ring a bell, but keep
Okay.
going.
All right. They were an AI startup backed by Microsoft, and they have now collapsed into receivership after one of their creditors seized a bunch of money for defaulting on things or seized a bunch of accounts. They had an artificial intelligence platform that was no code development. Turns out it was actually powered by 700 human engineers in India. The company marketed its platform as an AI assistant named Natasha, which could assemble software applications like Lego bricks, but recent reports and commentary have revealed that behind the scenes, customer requests were actually manually fulfilled by developers and not by machines.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Seriously. Yeah.
Is literally
That. Yeah.
automated Turk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or
Mechanical Turk.
Mechanical Turk, yeah.
That's what it is.
Yep.
Mechanical
Yeah, yeah.
Turk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mechanical Turk, which was an old scam run by I can't remember where the guy was from, but he said, I have this Mechanical Turk. It looks like a robot and it plays chess. And it's just a guy that's really good at chess inside the machine moving an arm.
Right.
That's all it was. And it's an apocryphal story, but here we are in 2025
Mm-hmm.
with real Mechanical Turks writing code, 700 of them writing code for people and under the guise of it being AI. And the company is now essentially shut down. It's gone into receivership. Well, what that means, actually, they're a London company, so I don't know what that means exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But here in the U.S., when you go into receivership, that means you have somebody has been appointed as a trustee of the company, and they're going to decide how the assets are distributed among creditors.
Yeah.
So it's shutting down, is what it is.
Yeah. I wonder how you pull that off. I mean, I'm just thinking about, because what people want out of an AI is speed, right?
Yeah.
So how do you get 700 engineers? How do you break them up into teams so that if someone queries this fake system, that it looks like your response is coming quickly?
Maybe you say, oh, this is going to be very hard. Give us a minute. Give me a minute. I have to put something together.
That was
Right.
just what
Yeah,
I was
you say-
thinking when I've used ChatGPT and it's like, oh, we're actually really busy right now. We'll let you know when this is done. 20
Right.
minutes later, I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you use the free versions of stuff. It might take some time to do a stupid meme image or whatever. The what was it? The image of everybody as an action figure that overloaded their systems when they opened them
yeah.
up.
Right.
It's just a bunch of engineers with Photoshop just really quickly.
You did one of you as a Muppet, right, Dave?
Yes.
I did one of me as a Muppet. It doesn't look anything like the one you did as a Muppet.
Yeah.
Yours looked like an actual Muppet, like it was an actual puppet standing there.
Right.
Mine looked like somebody drew a Muppet,
Yeah.
and I didn't like that.
Okay.
But I could have probably asked it to prompt again and do something else.
Yeah.
I did get a really cool picture of me with a shotgun standing on a pile of skulls. That was pretty awesome.
What?
What are you making the image
Pardon?
for your new heavy metal album
Yes.
or something?
Yes.
With chickens,
Okay.
obviously.
Right. And again, I look more like John
Right.
Goodman than I do like me, which is kind of weird. In the face, it looks more like John Goodman than it does me.
Huh. Okay.
And maybe the maybe the AI thinks, hey, this is just John Goodman pretending to be Joe Kerrigan.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
That's what it thinks.
That's exactly what it is. Yes.
Anyway, there were also some other shenanigans going on at this company. I learned a new term, by the way, called round tripping,
Mm.
which is
Oh.
this is a term for if you're a startup company, you want to look like you've got a lot of business. You find another startup company that wants to look like they have a lot of business, right? And then they bill you for $1 million, and you pay them, and then you bill them for $1 million, and they pay you.
Wow.
And you go, look at this revenue. We got $1 million in revenue coming in every month.
That is,
Right.
I'm familiar with this scheme because in the art world, when you go to like a comic or a zine show, there's a joke that the same $5 bill makes its way around the whole show.
Right.
Just artists buying from each other and paying the $5 for the comic, and then it moves on. So it's the same $5 bill, but you've made a lot of sales.
Right. There was a joke about that in where I went to college up in the western part of Maryland in Frostburg. One of the bar owners said, there's just one $20 bill and it just keeps making its way around this town.
Round tripping.
Wow.
All right, I'm adding that to the
Right.
lexicon. All right.
Round trip.
But round tripping, you're billing for services that aren't actually happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So all you're doing is creating entries in the books. You're not actually doing anything else. You're not incurring any cost for it beyond the accountant's cost, your bookkeepers. But it's completely fake. And this company was just a scam from front to back on it. And they bilked Microsoft out of a ton of money, apparently.
Yeah.
No, it's just like when
Wow.
businesses tell you how they're doing in percentages only. We've
Right.
increased our revenues by 500%. Oh, yeah?
Right.
What did you start?
Right. $2.
Yeah.
Now
Like,
we've made 10.
Yeah.
This is not really something that people need to be on the lookout for. It's really a scam for more of a corporate kind of scam. What's interesting is that they got people to pay for this service that was really just essentially other people doing things for them.
Yeah. What's that online thing? Fiverr? Is that the one?
Fiverr, and believe it or
Mhm.
not, there's actually an Amazon service where you can do this called MTurk,
Right.
Yes, yeah, familiar with that.
but
Yep.
it's like micro tasks. Those are smaller tasks.
Yeah.
I've used that service to buy people's time for filling out surveys,
Oh.
which is nice.
All right. All right. Well, we will have links to all of our stories in the show notes. And of course, we would love to hear from you. If there's something you'd like us to consider for the show, you can email us. It's hackinghumans@n2k.com. All right, Joe and Maria, it is time for our catch of the day.
Dave, our catch of the day comes from the Scams subreddit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's highly edited with somebody putting things in there. So I'm just going to let you read this one.
Yeah.
And
I'll put my own information in for the things that have been redacted
right.
as if they were being sent to me.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. So it says, "Hello, Dave. Good evening. Sorry to reach out so late. We understand that you were previously employed at McDonald's. It has come to our attention that potentially upsetting camera footage was flagged from March 2023. This incident involving yourself, Tom, and Bob leads management to believe that drug use during working hours may have occurred. We must inform you that a report is being filed," although it says, "We must inform you that a report it being filled
Mhm.
and Cyberwire LLC has been notified. When convenient, please use this link to review the details."
Mm.
Oh, I'm in big trouble, guys.
You are.
Drug use at
that,
McDonald's?
Right,
Say it
exactly.
as so.
Going through the drive-thru. Here's your chicken nuggets with a side of weed.
Right.
I would love to know where that McDonald's is. Please let me know.
I'm just basing that on the smell.
Mm, Damn.
I'll take over cigarette smoke any day of the week.
One time I went through a McDonald's and my wife was hungry. She needed something to eat. So I just got something for her. And the guy says, it's $4.15.
Yeah.
I look at the guy and I gauge him and I go, should have been 5 cents more. And he takes a second. He goes, and I look at him and go, aha.
Gotcha.
Reefer madness.
Right.
Get away from me, druggie.
Got him.
Yeah. So obviously we're trying to inject some fear here
Yes.
that you're going to get fired from your current workplace
Right.
because either So two things here. I mean, maybe you did do some drugs at your previous employer, or you're being falsely accused of doing some drugs at your previous employer. Either way, not good and something that gets your attention.
Right. This all hinges on how accurate the information is as well.
Right.
Right. So if you actually had worked at McDonald's,
Which I have never done. by
which
the
you've
way.
never done,
I should have said Radio Shack.
Radio-
I have worked at Radio Shack.
have you?
Oh, yeah.
This has been cool.
Oh, it was a great job.
Yeah.
Dream come true. Seriously.
I used to go over there for my Battery of the Month club.
Yeah. No, I was at Radio Shack during the golden age of Radio Shack. When I worked at Radio Shack, there were more Radio Shacks than McDonald's.
Really?
True story.
Man, those
Wow.
were the days. Wait, Battery of the Month Club? Tell me about
Yeah.
that offline, Joe. 'Cause
There are lots of listeners who are shaking their heads up and down like, yeah, I had
I
had
remember
that
Radio
card.
Shack well, but not Battery of the
Yeah.
Month Club. So, okay.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, that is our catch of the day. And once again, we would love to hear from you. You can email us. It's hackinghumans@n2k.com. And of course, we want to thank this week's sponsor, ThreatLocker. Go to threatlocker.com/HH and check out their Zero Trust Endpoint Protection Platform. That's the words threat and locker with no space.com/HH, where you can request a demo and neutralize the threat of malware running on your devices. And that is Hacking Humans, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. Please look for the show survey in the show notes or send an email to hackinghumans@n2k.com. This episode is produced by Liz Stokes. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. We're mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. I'm Dave Bittner.
I'm Joe Kerrigan.
And I'm Maria Varmazis.
Thanks for listening.